I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married with children.
It's been 12 years since we got this gang together.
And we're still running the rapids of living with a blended family.
And sometimes that is just not easy.
If you're looking for support and tools when it comes to divorce, step-parenting, co-parenting, and giving it your best,
you're in the right place.
We're talking about everything.
You ready to get this party started?
Always.
I'm engaged.
Mike just said he's engaged and ready, and I thought we should get that on tape? Not tape. What do you call it?
On recording?
On recording?
Let me say this.
Go ahead.
I am engaged and ready.
Yeah, he's super engaged and ready. Actually, he was so disengaged that I was like, okay, are you ready? We had this time set aside.
Wow, you just started it without even saying, like, are you ready to go? I think we're just talking. So we're sitting here. We're getting ready to start another great episode of Everything Always. And what does Summer do? She starts the recording and then says, hey, right before she says, hey, get off your phone. I want you to be engaged. And I said, I'm engaged.
Actually, wait, you're missing it. What actually happened right before that is that I said, hey, he's like, I'm going to look at cars on the phone right now. And I was like, we're doing our podcast.
Look, I could flip through the internet and look at cars while I'm talking.
So then I said, I think it creates a disconnect if we do it that way. There's like an energy disconnect. So do you know what he did? This is what he does when we need to connect.
Oh,
he said,
you're gonna tell him the secret weapon?
I think we've told.
When I'm like, okay, give me your hands and let's have a creepy stare at each other until one of us goes, okay, I'm connected.
And it's always me.
I'm connected. Stop looking at me.
You did do that. I think we've talked about that once on as some episode where we talked about a trick to getting connected. Oh, right.
Again. When you're like fighting and you're like, okay,
yes.
No one's allowed to talk. We just have to look at each other
and hold hands
and see if we'll either kill each other or it's like that count to 10, right?
Yes.
Before you hit someone, count to 10. After 10, if you still want to, they probably deserve it.
There you go. Welcome, guys. It's Mike and Summer, and we're back.
And we're back. How you doing, everybody?
Today's episode is about bullies, particularly if you are co-parenting with a bully.
And, most of the time when you hear bullies, you're thinking about, we're going to talk about how our kids could be bullied at school or, someone's pushing you down on the playground or, somebody wants to fight you after school by the flagpole. Well, listen, there can be bullies that aren't kids.
That's right.
They could be people that you used to be married to.
They could be. And I will tell you this, we have been looking at the messages we receive. We've been looking at our reviews. We've been looking at all the things because we ask in multiple areas, what do you want to hear more of? And some people are like, I want to hear more about high conflict with exes. I want to hear all the bad and the ugly. I want to hear, and there's all these things. So we've actually put together a list for all the upcoming episodes of some real things to talk about. And we're also going to insert our experiences. But I do want to say something before we jump into all of this, is that one thing we are super mindful of, I know there's some people that are just like, but did you particularly have this situation? We'll be open about some situations that we have experienced, but we're also really careful about not calling out certain people, protecting.
And being sensitive, right?
Yeah.
Like our kids listen to this.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our kids' friends and other parents listen to this. They may or may not like what we talk about. And I guess in general, what we're saying is that we talk about a lot of things. Some of them are directly related to our personal lives and the things that we've had to deal with. And some of them are things that we talk to other people about, and it's things that we haven't had to deal with. And so in an effort to keep it friendly and to make it so that we're not calling people out, you won't know, I guess, unless we get super passionate and I get pissed off, and then I might tell you straight out. Yeah. You never know.
That could very well happen. He's got that side. No, but the real deal is that why are we doing this? Because we've experienced probably a lot of the things that we talk about. But again, there's this fine line of, trying to keep it.
The thing is, we're doing this. We're doing this to learn and grow. So things that we've gone through, yeah, you know what? Does it matter if we have or haven't? We're talking about things that are relevant to us, that are relevant to people that are our friends, families, other people that we know that we have close personal relationships with that are dealing with some of these things. And I think we always say we're not experts. We're not the pros of co-parenting or divorced families or blended families or any of those things. We're just people that have had a lot of experience with lots of different things, good and bad. And we've had a lot of struggles. And I think we've always say, like, you know what, if we could help somebody not step on the same landmines that we've stepped on, to avoid some of those things, to create a conversation, to potentially create a forum where people have a voice and can express how they feel, then you know what, we're doing something good. And it actually is a little bit like therapy for us too, just to, talk about it and get it out there. So I think it helps our relationship.
Yeah. And it's super awesome. Actually, it's awesome that you listening are listening and on this journey. And for those of you that have offered so much insight and have gotten value from it, that means the world. So with that, let's get to our topic.
Bullies.
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 One of the things that was high on the list that we hear a ton of and is that whole co-parenting with a high conflict personality. That is like top of the list. And, it would be super awesome. I always like to use the magic wand trick, but it would be super awesome if we had the magic wand where we could turn an ex into
stone?
No, into a cooperative, mature, puts the kids first, doesn't always blame you.
No ego. Yeah.
Is super easygoing, supportive. I mean, right, if you're waving the magic wand, wouldn't it be so great? But unfortunately, we don't have this magic wand formula that you can just implement and it all goes away and all the conflict goes away. It doesn't exist. And so our whole goal is to share the coping tools, because of course you can't change somebody else if they are high conflict. The best that we can do is cope with it ourselves and be okay ourselves inside.
Kind of goes along that whole saying of the only thing you can control is yourself.
Exactly. And this is something we frequently say. It's like an ongoing theme.
You're going to get really frustrated if you think you can control someone else.
Absolutely. But we still have those moments, right? Because you're so unhappy with the situation. You're so unhappy how something went. You think that your action could possibly inspire that person to think like you do or think differently. And it isn't going to happen. And if you have inspired somebody to behave differently, then that's awesome. But the only way that you do that is how you conduct yourself. So today we're talking about adult bullies, and specifically when you are co-parenting with one. And maybe you are, maybe you're not, but I think that from today's episode, you can start to discern whether you are and what you can do to the best of your ability to at least keep yourself and your situation calm. So I think most people listening knows how awful divorce can be. Even if you're a step parent that never had children and was never married, you may have seen your partner go through it with his or her ex-spouse, or you've seen a friend go through it. Either way, you know that divorce, for the most part, is pretty icky and ugly. There are the rare occasions that people have a wonderful, friendly divorce. They're all good, and they're probably not listening to a podcast like this.
The unicorn scenario.
The unicorn scenario.
It exists.
So
you don't see it often.
Let's talk about some of the things that it looks like when there is a co-parent who is bullying the other parent or parents. And
okay.
Some of those things look like consistent accusations.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing this wrong. You're doing that. You put the child in danger, kind of over hardcore accusations. Lots of assumptions. So if you did something in particular with your child, there's like a hardcore way off the radar assumption.
Yeah, for sure.
You can throw in some examples too.
I'm listening. I'm calculating right now. I'm studying this list.
Here's the big one is insults. It's just like a whole bunch of insults and name calling.
Oh yeah.
I mean, think of this kind of stuff when you think of kids too doing these things. It's just like flat out trying to make you feel really, really bad. What's the worst thing I can call you? How can I super insult you?
And it's that, and it's mixed into like guilt things. So like it would be name calling, it would be insults. And those insults could be like, you're the worst thing ever. I can see obviously why the kids don't like you. Right. It's these things where it's a mix of like, you're getting this result, just things that are nasty. Right?
Yes.
And this is typically what's happening in with parents that are dealing with high conflict, right? High conflict co-parenting. You have a lot of this to the point where it's like, man, it can like beat you up. You'll get those feelings where you're like, is it even worth it? Like, I can't deal with this anymore. Like, I would rather back away from my duties and my responsibilities and my relationship and my feelings for these kids because the other parent is making it so freaking bad. And when we're talking about bullies, we're not talking about if you're in a situation where you're actually having physical issues.
Yes,
that's absolutely a whole nother thing. We're talking about emotional bullies here. There's other ways to deal with physical bullies: crowbars, hatchets, machetes. No, not those things. Summer said, no, stop, ouch. No, not that. But I do believe you got to, hit a bully first. No, don't hit him. Summer's looking at me like, I think I need to back up.
I'm just looking at you. I'm not seeing anything.
Anyway, we are talking about emotional bullies. If you're dealing with somebody with physical abuse, all kidding aside, that's a whole nother thing, and that needs to be taken very seriously.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking about emotional bullies, people that are manipulative, that are terrible, that say nasty things in an effort to make themselves feel better, build their ego, and tear you down.
Yes.
Sorry, keep going. You had a good list. I kind of jumped in here. Sorry.
No, I think more things look like bossiness is a really big thing. It's kind of like, this is the way it's going to go. This is how this is happening. And
you're going to do it my way. I'm in charge of you.
Yes. Or it's very demanding, instead of asking or to, hey, can we compromise on this thing? It's just a very demanding type of, you need to do this, you need to do that. And there's even
threatening. And not just threatening physically, threatening like, you know what? If I'm going to take you to court,
yeah,
I will do this. I will lie and say that you did this so that I get this. I will show you.
Exactly.
Threatening legally, threatening physically, threatening emotionally, threatening what they'll do to the kids because you did this. Right. I will tell the kids this if you don't give me that. This is terrible stuff, actually.
Well, it's all bullying stuff.
It's all bullying stuff, and it pisses me off right now.
Yes.
I don't like it at all.
No, he doesn't like it at all, and that's why this became an episode. It's name slandering. It's, trying to pit people against you. Those types of things. And you know what? You do get mad. And if anyone is talking to Mike about that situation, if they're in that situation, he gets pretty fired up. Not to the point of crowbars, but you get mad because it's an unfair thing.
The crowbars were physical for the physical people.
I know, I'm saying that you don't get mad to the point of...
I can honestly say I've never hit anybody with a crowbar.
Oh, well, that's good. Hey, kudos to me for being married to the guy who hasn't used a crowbar. I can sleep safely tonight.
Yet.
Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at EverythingAlwaysCo. We just set it up, and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode.
So here's the thing. An effective co-parenting relationship will feel nearly impossible when you're dealing with a bully. Like it's like, I pretty much feel that no matter what, we're never going to be able to cooperate and work together. So for the sake of, here's another thing. I want to kind of piggyback off of you saying the whole physical thing. Also, for the sake of today's episode, we're assuming that your child is not being bullied by their other parent, because obviously if that is a situation, pretty sure you know how that has to be addressed if they're getting bullied by that parent.
That's a whole nother thing too. And
Yes.
and that's where you need to
take legal matters, call
authorities,
the police, do what you
like
need
the
to
real
do.
things. Because the protection of your kids is foremost the number one most important thing.
Yes. Again, we really are focusing on it's about one parent experiencing bullying from the person that they co-parent with. And we're assuming and hoping that the children are not experiencing that, because that type usually it's not even about the kids. They're not thinking about the kids in the best interest. It's more about their ego.
The problem is kids know.
Oh, they know.
They have a way of knowing.
They do have a way of knowing.
It's a feeling, it's the temperament in terms of like the living situation, and it leaks into a lot of other things that we've talked about in terms of like, let's not get into that. Let's stick on bullying. But I don't want to get off course here.
Don't get off course. So in the case of you, if you are the person that is being bullied, and I'm sure there are very different levels, and it could be something that is constant. It could be something that just rears its head every now and then. Either way, it's very difficult to deal with. And in the case of you being the person that's being bullied, you kind of have to take on the responsibility of being the more mature person and to conduct yourself in a way that is best for your children. And that means that you're doing whatever it takes to be responsible and there and nurturing and all the things that you can to show the kids a good example, act maturely. But the hard part is that you don't get to, deep down, you're probably feeling like you want to prove a point. You want to say something back.
It leads to two things, right? It's you said something terrible to me, so now I'm going to match that or beat that and say something terrible back to you. And what are you in? Full conflict.
Yes.
What is it achieving? Nothing.
Yeah.
Literally, it's achieving nothing. It's creating more of an unstable environment and more conflict.
And you
and
can't.
I bet keep going. So I didn't mean to jump in.
Go.
But yeah,
You bet what?
I was going to say that in terms of how this goes, it's really freaking hard to let go of your own ego. Say, you know what? I'm not with this person anymore. They don't deserve my time, energy, or any of this. This is stuff that's reserved for people that you care about what they think. You care about their opinion. You care about how they're making you feel. And if you're still having those feelings, then you need more time to be like, hey, separate more.
Yeah.
In that same situation, to disengage, let your ego go, and say, you know what? I'm going to do this like it's business.
Mm-hmm.
Act terrible to me, you don't get responses. I'm not engaging in this. I know that Summer, she's got some notes scribbled down here, but I know that she's going to talk about some of the tools that you can use when you're being bullied. But for me, it's disengage, pull back. Say something terrible. You no longer have access to talk to me. You are now cut off. You're out. If you're going to be terrible, say negative things, I'm not going to say them back. If anything, it might be, You are welcome to have your own opinion. Now back to business, right? Engaging isn't going to get you anywhere.
Well, and I think honestly, that is the main, if not, I mean, that is the most important thing is not to engage. Because first actually is also to remember that you cannot change them. And I think that's where most of the frustration comes from, is that people think they can change them. And especially a bully, you cannot control the bully. You cannot change the bully. The only thing that you can do is that you have control of is to keep yourself calm and level-headed. And like you said, not engage and not get emotional. And your mental health is like the most important thing in terms of being a good parent.
The one nice thing that you can actually consider, though, is that they're doing all of those things because they're an idiot and because their ego is involved and because they care so much about you that they're doing this to try to tear you down to make themselves better. It actually just shows that they're weak and pathetic. Remember that.
Nice.
Sorry.
He gets fired up. Here's the thing. What happens is with a bully, like say, for example, your co-parent disagrees with a choice that you have made or rule that you have made. And so what happens is, what's an example? It's just like, I can't believe that you guys don't have sugar at your house. Their kids, they need to have sugar. Or I can't believe that you allow sugar in your house. You're a bad parent, whatever. It can be something. By the way, it can be something as ridiculous as that.
Could be.
I can't believe that you let my child sit in a car with a garbage bag in it. How rude. I don't know. Like things can get.
Those are not great examples.
I can't think of a good example. Give me a good example.
But we will.
I'm trying to say
we
how.
know what it is.
I can say bullies will talk about like petty things though. And then they're looking for something to get you on. Mm-hmm. And so when they don't agree, it's almost like they're constantly searching for you to do something wrong so that they can get upset because that fuels them. A bully is fueled by this chaos and negative emotion.
It could be things like, oh, I see that your work was more important than Johnny's basketball practice again. Great job, Dad. Guess you won't be getting Dad of the Year. I'll go ahead and take care of everything.
Well, and that's just being rude, right? That's just like being snarky and rude. But then it turns into more. Then it turns into rants. Then it turns into saying bad things to your kids. Then it's like name calling. What a big thing too is like bringing up the past. Oh, and by the way, I remember that story of when you were 15 and you did this, or I remember this, or I remember. A bully is just their intent
to tear you
is
down.
to tear you down.
To push themselves up, but they don't understand. You don't go up when you tear someone down.
Mm-hmm. So here's the thing to always remember is what is important here. And I can tell you what is not important. It feels important to you, but it's not important in the big picture. It's not important to prove your point to the bully. It's just not. What's important is for you to keep calm and do what you need to do to protect your mental state and how you are with your kids. So it's not to get tangled into the conflict. It's not to call them names back or tell them they're wrong or write your long letter that's not going to impact them.
Obligated to defend yourself.
Right.
That just shows that you still care. You know what? I actually don't care about you, honestly. I don't even have the time to want to pick up my fingers and type something back.
I'm going to do it because I feel like it's been a while since I've done it. Maybe one whole episode. I don't know. But if you remember...
We doing power breathing?
No. If you remember, the second agreement is... Don't take it personal. Don't take it personally.
Right. Always go back to the 4 agreements.
Always go back to the 4 agreements. It's like our Bible. But what he talks about, Don Miguel Ruiz talks about, don't take it personal, because when you have the ability to realize that opinion actually has nothing to do with you and it has to do with that person and their pain, You have this whole freedom. You actually experience this freedom of, it doesn't matter what you say. It actually has no impact on you. It's that whole your opinions.
Keep your friends.
No, your opinion is none of my business. There's that saying that we'll talk about too, where it's like, it isn't. That person's opinion is all their business, and they're trying to dump it onto you because it's so easy when you have pain. You want to dump it on somebody else instead of just not taking it personally. You know who you are. And just remember this too. This is also a big, huge thing that I'm adding in here, is that when those things happen, remember, this is why you are not together with that person.
Mm-hmm.
And that is like, that should make you breathe easier.
You're like, oh man, did I dodge a bullet? I could have wasted a life.
Well, you learn from that, and you realize, of course, I'm never going to reason with this person. Of course, I'm never going to come to a calm agreement. Nothing is going to be consistently calm with this person. And here is why. And it should be the difference of you two should actually be this like amazing wake up call of like, ooh, it can kind of be like a shining light, like, oh, here's the silver lining. I get to fully be me now. And you have to really learn how to not let those attacks get to you.
Smart.
So we talk about, honestly, there's so many tools in different episodes that we've talked about, but no matter how much we talk about these things, it's still like, but what if my ex is super high conflict? What if he's a bully? What if she's a total narcissist? What if like all these things? And at the end of the day, it really always comes back to, sorry, you can't control them. You can only control you. There's certain things that may get so out of hand to the point where you have to take legal action to protect your children and potentially your own safety. However, at the end of the day, it really is what's most important is your relationship with your kids. And I know some people are probably saying right at this point, well, what if it's totally impacted the relationship with my kids, even though I've tried to stay calm and I've tried to do these things and I've tried to be the best that I can?
You're doing your best.
You are doing your best, which is another agreement, always do your best. However, there are more things, and we're not expert enough to talk about those. I'm so excited though, like coming up, we have an interview scheduled with an amazing psychotherapist. She's helped so many people in terms of when those relationships have been damaged with kids that we're going to learn a ton from her. I'm looking forward to that, but I want you to know that that's coming because that's another thing that people ask about, because that's the biggest concern, right? Is how is this affecting your relationship with your children? So another thing to always remember, I will remind myself of this, is how are you modeling yourself to your children? What are you doing that they're going to learn from you? Because whether you realize it or not, you can talk to them, you can tell them things, but what they really model is your behavior and how you do life.
That's right. And they will mimic it.
They will.
So I have a little warning for you bullies out there. I'm being serious.
Do you think the bullies are actually listening?
No, I know, because you know what? Here's the thing. Here's the warning. Someday you're going to regret your behavior. You're going to feel bad about the things and the person that you were when you were doing it. You will learn and understand that you were being small, you were driven by your ego, and it actually was your worst self. So do something about it. Be stronger, be better. Don't behave like that. And one other thing. There may not be something like that shows up to like arrest you or whatever because you're not doing something that's so terrible that like that's going to happen, but karma's going to freaking get you. Remember that, and I believe in it. Don't be a bully.
Don't be a bully. He's pointing to the microphone. It's great.
The microphone can't point back. Maybe I'm being a bully to the microphone right now.
I can't wait till we're doing videos so that you guys can see all these expressions. It's awesome.
I just don't like it very much.
He doesn't like it very much. And You know what else? To your point, as you were saying that, I thought of how you were saying they mimic what you do. They learn from your behaviors. So that's you as, being the calm, mature But also, if you are a bully or you're co-parenting with a bully, they might be learning that. We've literally, when we've heard of bully experiences at school that our friends have, their children have been through, when you get a further insight and you start to learn about that child that was doing the bullying,
they're mimicking,
and you start to learn, holy cow, this is what they were taught to do. This is what they saw. So think of your behavior and go, wait a minute. If my child were doing this action right now, like this mean thing that I'm about to do, oftentimes they're not taking a pause to think about that. But if you were, right, if you're in that, even if you're somebody who's not a bully, but you're like, guilty of sending that mean text message, guilty of name calling, guilty of doing those things, you're approaching the line, right? You're approaching the line of disrupting somebody's life just because you don't like them. You're bullying. You're just being a mean person. And think of your behavior. And if your child got sent home from school for that behavior, would you be like, way to go, good job? Or would you be like, hey, we don't do that.
Except for you do.
Right? But just think about what is the example that you're trying to give. And so if you don't want them doing certain things, then don't do them yourself. I want to say one more thing too.
Do it. It's your podcast.
It's my podcast. It's all mine.
Well, I mean, it's yours. You got the microphone right here. Bring it. Let's go.
Okay. So I'm going to say this because I've done this in the past, and I'm just going to bring it in here. And I know reasons why I was like this. And maybe Mike, you've talked about this once before on our episodes, and it's something that's like, it's embarrassing to say, but like I was this person. I would say sorry all the time for every single thing. Everything. I'm sorry. And
don't get me started on this.
Well, if you're somebody who has been like, you haven't done this right, you haven't done that right, whatever, if that's happened in your life, and I'm not saying necessarily, I've had those different, whether work relationships, personal relationships, I've definitely been in those positions where it's like, I'm not doing a good enough job. And you get to this point where you're so scared of what the outcome will be if a certain person gets upset that you apologize when, like, as often as you can, overboard apologizing. And what I want to say to that is, apologizing is a beautiful, wonderful thing when you're taking responsibility for doing something wrong. If you've hurt somebody, if you've actually done something that you should own up to, apologize for, and do what you can to make it right. But apologize when necessary. Oftentimes, bullies make you feel so bad, even when you don't even know what you've done wrong. You might not even know. And all of a sudden you have all of these things being thrown at you. And you're like, wait a minute, I don't even know what I did here. And it's it's almost like a brainwashing thing, because wanting to make you feel bad.
Emotional abuse.
It is emotional abuse. I wouldn't even say borderline. It's emotional abuse, and it impacts you for years and years to come. And it's really, they can distort an entire situation, and suddenly, which is kind of like gaslighting when we talked about
manipulating the whole thing and twisting.
And you're feeling guilty. You're feeling so guilty about something that you actually did not do. And I want to say, and I learned a ton from Mike in various situations, because you sometimes you start to repeat different patterns in your life, and you have really taught me to stand up for myself. And it's a practice that you have to do till you finally feel. Sometimes you have to, like, some people say, don't say fake it till you make it. But like, sometimes I'm like, sometimes you do have to fake it till you make it, where you're faking the strength. And then suddenly you're like, okay, I've practiced this actually. And then you've got this different self-talk going on in your head. And it's like, hey, you know what? I did not do anything wrong there. I'm not going to keep saying I'm sorry or apologizing, but I will take responsibility when I've done something wrong. So my point is that if you're somebody who is doing that, I'm sorry all the time because you just want to keep the peace, I really would say, again,
stop it.
Would you want your kids to be doing that same thing?
Don't be a pushover.
Do you want them to be a pushover? Do you want them to keep apologizing if they haven't actually done something wrong? So really do the work that needs to be done to stand up for yourself. And don't apologize if you felt right about something. If you're like, no, I did that because that was the right thing to do. So you can be polite and still be firm. And I feel like I'm a polite person. I'm nice, but I can still be firm.
Yeah, it's true. Wow.
So that's a big thing.
Fun episode on bullies.
Fun episode. I don't know if it was fun.
I will tell you guys, for a lot of you that don't really know Summer, she literally is one of the sweetest, most sincere, kind-hearted people on the planet. This woman gets a gold star.
Oh.
I don't even know where. I'm going to actually probably get you a gold star.
I would like a gold star, and I'm going to hang it right there on the wall.
Wow. All right. Well, hey, thank you for listening. And this, I feel like, was one of those episodes where, I want to go take a breath. Because I feel a little tense right now. I'm pissed off.
You get tense because there's a lot of things, you've experienced. So in general, all of us, we have in our lives, and I'm sure a lot of you listening, especially if you listen this far, have experienced that. So we stand by you, we support you, and we wish you all of the strength and the mental health and calm and control of your own emotions to get through if you are dealing with this.
The only thing that you can control is yourself. Stop worrying about other people.
Yep. It's hard.
Just let it go. It's hard to do. Just let it go.
Yep.
On that note, this is the Everything Always podcast. We're on all the places where podcasts live. We really appreciate you listening. We'd love it if you could share, write a great review. Yeah. And I guess we'll see you on the next one.
See you on the next one.
Thank you so much for listening. And we like to say, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't. See you next time.